What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Go Dope or Go Home. This is your host, Amber Lane, and I'm gonna go ahead and give you a forewarning. Conversation may be a little triggering, so you might want to let's all take a deep breath together and relax because we're gonna dig a little deeper today. So the topic today is when love hurts, and we're gonna talk about domestic violence. We all know that October is not only breast cancer awareness month as well as autism awareness, but it's also domestic violence awareness month. And domestic violence awareness month is very near and dear to me. I've lost a family member to domestic violence. I personally had my experience. I know a few people that had their experiences. So this episode today, we're going to be a little raw. We're going to talk about it, what to look out for, the things to prevent it. Once you see someone in a situation, what is your place? How do you support that person, but also keeping the boundaries that you kind of have to separate yourself as well. So let's go ahead and dig into it. So, domestic violence is not only, I know the first thing that we think our mind is, of course, when we hear violent, we think automatically physical harm. So, it's not only physical harm, but it's verbal, it's emotional, it's sexual, and it's mental. So, according to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, they say that domestic violence is a willful intimidation. And so, we're going to come back to that word willful. But they say the willful intimidation, physical assault, battery, sexual assault, and or other abusive behavior as part of a systematic pattern of power and control perpetrated by one intimate partner against another. So a few things that caught my attention when I was reading the definition was it's a system to what the abuser is doing. And not only men can be abusers, but women can be abusers as well. So we're going to talk about that as well. But it's a systematic pattern of power and control. That person wants full control. What are you doing during your day? What are your activities? Who are your friends? Who control over your phone? They want to take your phone. Some of those things. And it says an intimate partner, meaning that you have to let that person close to you. That person has to have an intimate relationship with you. It's just not anyone walking up the street that you can have a domestic violence encounter with, but it's more so those people that you actually let into your space, into your peace. Those people that get to know exactly who you are as a person. Those people are majority of the time the people that end up becoming abusive to you. So in the United States, more than 10 million adults experience domestic violence annually. More than 10 million people, and this is every single year. And this is just a general statistics. Okay, 1 in 4 women and 1 in 10 men experience sexual violence, physical violence, and or stalking by an intimate partner. Again, that person has to be in your space. An intimate partner during their lifetime with IPV related impact, such as being concerned for their safety, PTSD symptoms, injury, or needing victim services. So a lot of these people that end up being abused, they end up having to have some type of service after they've dealt with what they've dealt with. Approximately 1 in 5 female victims and 1 in 20 male victims need medical care. So they're being harmed that much to where they need medical care. They have to go to the hospital. Have to have wound care, urgent care. Female victims sustain injuries, listen to this, 3 times more often than male victims. 3 times. 1 in 5 female victims and 1 in 9 male victims need legal services. 23.2% of women and 13.9% of men have experienced severe physical violence by an intimate partner during their lifetime. So again, this conversation is going to be triggering, and it's Awareness Month. So this is not to talk about anybody. This is not to say, oh, I know homegirl is dealing with it. No, this is about bringing awareness and being a support to whoever we may know in our communities. There are shelters here that we have in Michigan that you can provide to someone else. There's a hotline, a national domestic violence hotline. I'm going to give that number more than once throughout the episode. The number is 800-799-7233. If you know someone that is going through anything, if you're dealing with anything and you're tired, please call them, guys. Again, I lost a family member to this. I've dealt with this myself. So this is very near and dear to me. Some more statistics for you. On a typical day, the domestic violence hotline nationwide receives over 19,000 calls. So people are constantly calling this hotline because of the abuse that they're dealing with. And again, it doesn't have to be physical. It can be sexual. It can be emotional. It can be verbal. No one always has to put their hand on you for you to know that it's abuse. If someone is talking to you, they're demeaning you, they're manipulative, they're narcissistic. These things are classified as abuse as well. You have every right to call. Intimate partner violence is most common against women between the ages of 18 and 24. So these are millennial women. These are people that are in my age group. The target for Go Dope or Go Home, it is more common for women between the ages of 18 and 24. And part of me feels like it's because a lot of the abusers feel like you're green, you don't know anything, you may not have experienced anything, so they're trying to show you. That for me, that was like part of it. He felt like I didn't know too much, so he was trying to show me everything that he didn't think I knew. So it was part of that. So a lot of what we're going to talk about today, again, is triggering, but please listen to the statistics as well. 19% of intimate partner violence includes a weapon, whether it be a gun, whether it be a knife, whether it be whatever that person can put their hands on. And again, these are statistics that are overall as a whole. We're going to talk about domestic violence in the Black community as well. So 45.1% of Black women and 40.1% of Black men have experienced intimate partner physical violence, intimate partner sexual violence, and or intimate partner stalking in their lifetime. Stalking is classified as domestic violence. You have every right to call the hotline. You have every right to call the police if you feel like somebody is stalking you. And again, it usually happens with the people that we let into our space that are closest to us. 41.2% of Black women and 36.3% of Black men have experienced intimate partner physical violence in their lifetimes. And it does not just begin once you're an adult. A lot of times it starts as a child. A lot of times children see what's going on with mom and dad. A lot of times they try to prevent it. And what ends up happening is that child ends up being abused as well. A lot of things are trauma based on our past experiences. So people may have triggers and they end up hurting their child once they see their child doing something similar to what they dealt with. It's majority of the time it's triggers. And once triggers begin, that's when the abuse begins. 53.8% of Black women and 56.1% of Black men have experienced psychological aggression by an intimate partner in their lifetimes. It all starts in the mind. If they have you in your mind, they feel like they have you every other aspect a part of your being. Financial as well. Financial, emotional, sexual, physical. 8.8% of Black women have been victims of intimate partner rape in their lifetime. If you say no and it happens, it's rape, period. It's no gray area. It's a yes or no. If you say yes, it's yes. If you say no and that person continues, it is rape. You have every right to call that hotline. You have every right to tell someone about what has happened to you. And I believe a lot of times, especially with us having this conversation now, we have to be open with each other. A lot of times in our community, we're shunned when you begin to open up your mouth and explain your experiences, which I feel like has been a hindrance in our community because we don't talk about it. But if we are open enough with each other, if we're supportive enough with each other, if someone comes to me and tells me, first of all, it's not my place to go run your business. That's not, if you come to tell me, you feel that I'm a confidant enough, you trust me enough to tell me your personal business. That's when you take it and you don't spread it, but you help that person deal with whatever they're going through. 9.5% of Black women have experienced intimate partner stalking in their lifetimes. And 17.4% of Black women and 14.8% of Black men have experienced intimate partner sexual violence other than rape in their lifetimes. So not just including rape, but anything. I really don't want to dig too much into that because, again, it can be triggering. I know it's triggering for me. But a lot of people have experienced intimate partner sexual violence. Now let's bring it even closer to home. In Michigan, 36.1% of Michigan women and 25.8% of Michigan men experience intimate partner physical violence, intimate partner rape, and or partner stalking in their lives. In a single day, and this is back in 2019, all pulling statistics from the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, In a single day in 2019, Michigan domestic violence programs provided services to 3,204 adults and child survivors. That number has to rise, guys. We're losing so many people to domestic violence. Again, whether that be sexual, whether it be physical, whether it's verbal, that person ends up committing suicide. We are losing a lot of people to this. And I don't even want to call it a silent killer anymore because it's becoming more and more prevalent in our community. In 2019, 57,018 incidents of domestic violence were reported to the Michigan police. Many others went unreported. So the number that we have reported in 2019, imagine how many more numbers were not reported. In 2019, there were 44 reported domestic violence murders in Michigan. Over half of domestic violence homicides in Michigan were committed with guns, gun violence. As of December 31st, 2019, Michigan has submitted 22 active protective orders and 44 domestic violence misdemeanor records to the NCIS index. 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men in the United States have experienced some form of physical violence by an intimate partner. On a typical day, local domestic violence hotlines receive approximately 19,159 calls, approximately 13 calls every single minute. Every single minute. And 65 of the murder-suicides involve an intimate partner. 96% of the victims of these crimes are female. So majority on the other side as the abuser, it's more common for men to be the abuser. However, there are women that are abusing as well. And a lot of times, again, it's not just physical, but it's mental, it's emotional, it's financial. They want control of your money. What are you doing with your money? What are you spending your money on? Why did you go buy a shirt? Why didn't you buy me anything? Why are you buying? You should be buying me stuff first and then buy the kids stuff later. So the priorities are off, and that's where the abuse comes in. Signs of abuse. And everybody deals with domestic violence differently. Everyone deals with abuse differently. I'm only giving a few of the warning signs because everyone is different. But these are a lot of the common signs, red flags that you should look out for. Extreme jealousy, possessiveness, unpredictability, when you have no idea where this person is coming from. A bad temper, cruelty to animals, verbal abuse. It all starts verbally. Before I hit you, I'm going to talk you down first. I want you to think you're this small before I hit you. Extremely controlling behavior. Antiquated beliefs about roles of women and men in relationships. So they try to play the role. Women, you should be at home. You should be cooking. You should be cleaning. You shouldn't be outside. You should only be taking care of our children. And that's before we have children. A lot of times with domestic violence situations, children are quote unquote accidents. They're not supposed to be in the picture. It's only supposed to be the woman and the man. And the man is supposed to constantly control. Because if a child comes into play, now the man is having a power struggle between the man and the child. Forced sex or disregard to their partner's unwillingness to have sex. Again, if you say no, it's rape. It's not a gray area here. It's yes or no. Sabotage of birth control methods or refusal to honor agreed upon methods. Blaming the victim for anything bad that happens. This is your fault that I'm dealing with this. This is your fault that we lost the house. This is your fault that we don't have any money. They're putting the blame on you, making you feel insecure about yourself. And once you become insecure, that's when the heavy loading starts. Sabotage or obstruction of the victim's ability to work or attend school. You can't go to school. You can't work. Stay in the house. What are you coming out the house for? This is where you should be. You should be cooking, cleaning. Nobody needs to know how pretty you are. Don't wear makeup when you come outside. No, we're not going on dates. Initially, it does start that way. Of course, they want to gain your trust. They want to gain your control. They want to gain your they want to gain you as a person. When you're dating somebody, you're collecting data on that person. So during that time, of course, they want to know who you are. Of course, they want to know your likes. They want to know your favorite color, your favorite flowers, because they're going to start providing those things to you just to grab your attention for you to become a part of domestic violence. Abuse of other family members, children, or pets. Accusations of victim flirting with others. Why are you flirting with that guy? Honey, I wasn't flirting with him. I was asking him a question. No, you was flirting with him. And then it becomes a whole different situation. Demeaning the victim either privately or publicly. It starts at home first, but I rest sure that it's coming out the house. Eventually, someone else is going to see it. It's going to spew out. What's done in the dark comes to the light for sure. Embarrassment or humiliation of the victim in front of others. Talking about you in front of others, whether it be about what you have on, it's just a public humiliation. Harassment of the victim at work. They're coming to pop up on you at work to see what you're doing. Honey, are you really working, or you flirting with such and such? Are you really doing your job, or what are you doing with the money that you're getting paid? How much are you getting paid? How much is your, well, let me see your contract. Um, so let's go. So going into experience, I dealt with this. It never got physical, but it definitely was verbal and emotional. He thought he had me there. And so he was very manipulative, very narcissistic. Hey, do this. Hey, do that. Hey, no, you shouldn't do it that way. No. And I really don't want to go too deep into it because again, it can be triggering for me. I'm not gonna cap to y'all. But it was definitely control there. Because I wanted to be in a relationship with this person. And honestly, he may not have known that it was really classified as domestic violence, because if you're raised, this is a learned behavior to you. So you're just doing what you see your father do. You're just saying what you're doing, what your mother is doing. This is just what you think is the right way to be in a relationship. So all is forgiven, but again, you still have wounds that you have to take care of as a person. You still have scars that you have to allow God to heal, because let me tell you, God is a healer. If you talk to him, he will provide a way of escape. That is in the word. He will provide you a way of escape. Whether it be a person, whether it be a way to, it's not just coincidence. A lot of times we say, oh, that's just coincidence. No, a lot of times it's actually God providing a way of escape to you. And not to be spiritual, but I'm telling you, God is ahead of my life. So he's always going to be on this podcast, period. So it could have went another way. I feel like it could have ended up being physical, but it was more so just emotional. He broke me down to the point where I didn't think I was pretty. I dealt with a lot of self-esteem issues because, first of all, it started with colorism. Well, you think you light skin, you think you all of that. No, I don't think I'm all of that. No, but at that time, I was naive and green. I really didn't know. One of my first relationships, how am I supposed to honestly know about, it was just certain things I guess I learned from experience through my first relationship with this person. But he was very manipulative. There was an age difference there. So it was just him telling me what to do, and I was like, I really don't think that's cool. I'm a church girl, period. So being raised in church, a lot of stuff, I was like, I know that's wrong to do. And he was like, no, you should do it. So I was doing it because he told me it was okay to do it. And he knew that I was a church girl. He knew I was innocent and naive and green to certain things. So he took the opportunity to make it that situation. I actually lost my cousin not too long ago. It's been some years. My cousin passed away to gun violence due to domestic violence. We did a play a few years ago called When Love Hurts, which is the reason why we chose When Love Hurts for the episode. And her story was mentioned in it. She has two beautiful kids, unfortunately, that had to witness the loss of their mother. And on the other side of it, losing a family member to domestic violence, it is so much harm that is not only done to that person, to their children, but it's so much harm that's done to the family after. Because you have to deal with the fact that your loved one is no longer here by the choice of someone else. And a lot of times we see in domestic violence plays and we hear, and sometimes it can be taken as cliche, but a lot of times they'll say, if I can't have you, no one will. If I can't love you, nobody can. And that's how my cousin was taken from us. So thinking back at a younger age when I lost my cousin, it was triggering then, but the older I get and the more that I see the damage that it's doing in our communities, the damage that it's doing to women, and not only to women, because again, when we were doing the play When Love Hurts, we actually showed both sides. We showed a man abusing a woman, but we also showed a woman abusing a man, because a lot of times women grow up in a household that they're taught to be the man. So when they grow up in a household where they're taught to be a man, when you actually get in a relationship, they're the man to that man. And the man becomes a woman. But it's a lot of harm that's done to the families of people that actually lose their their loved ones to domestic violence, because they have to go on in their life always remembering someone took my family member. And a lot of times in our judicial systems, you're not always served the justice that you honestly deserve. And I'm going to leave that there on that judicial part, because a lot of times you're cheated out of what you should have received. And it's not about, I want to see you in jail. It's not about, I want to see you dead. It's not, I don't want anything, because I'm a Christian and I have a huge heart. I don't want anything to happen wrong to him, to the person that was abusing me, the person that's abused, that took my cousin, because there was a reason why you did it. And what that reason was, I have no idea. But you have some harm that was done to you, and hurt people. So in my heart, forgiven those people. I think I'm saying it right. I forgave that person. I'm forgiving those people. But first, rest assured that it is a process. It's nothing that happens overnight that you're just, oh, I forgive you. No, when it's harm done, it's a process to forgive that person. And I want to talk about also, why do victims stay? And so a few of the reasons were, again, according to the National Coalition of Domestic Violence, this is where all my sources have been pulled for today. It was the fear that the abuser's action will become more violent and may become lethal if the victim attempts to leave. So the first thing they do is they play in your mind that if you leave, something is going to happen to you. And so, especially if children are involved, you want to protect your babies. So the best way to protect your babies, you feel, is to stay in the situation. And the best way to live is to not live in that situation. Another one was unsupportive family and friends. You feel like you don't have anyone to support you. The victim feeling like the relationship is a mix of good times, love, and hope, along with the manipulation, intimidation, and fear. So every time someone gives you a bad, you say, oh, but he buys me flowers. Oh, but he hits you. Oh, but he helps me heal. Oh, but he spit on you. Oh, but he hugged me. Oh, he checked you about your money. Oh, but he bought me it. It should never be a but. Because this is not a cause and effect situation. Oh, because he did this, it's okay for... No. It's not okay. And like I said, it's not just men, but it's women as well. It's not okay for anyone to be dealing with any type of situation like this. The victim's lack of knowledge of access to safety and support. There's a lot of shelters in Michigan. The Angel House is one. That will provide services and sources to you. And if you feel comfortable to tell someone, first, let's talk about the supporters. Supporters, you're there to support that person. Meaning, they have to be ready. You can't make that person ready. You have to just be a support. First thing first is to always pray. Keep God in the midst of the situation, because there's nothing physically that you can do outside of pray, especially if that person is not quite ready to leave the situation. Also, lack of means to support themselves and or children financially, or lack of access to cash, bank accounts, or assets. So a lot of times they make you quit your job. They're your main source of income. So of course they're going to put that on you. Oh, well, I'm your own source of income. If you leave me, what you going to have? Lack of having somewhere to go, no family or friends to help, no money for hotels. Shelter programs are for or limited by the length of stay. Religious or culture beliefs and practices may not support divorce or may indicate outdated gender roles and keep the victim trapped in a relationship. Where your religion is so strong, it's very powerful to you. I know as Christians, you want to stay with that person. And not just Christians, I guess I'll say any person. When you get married, your goal is never to just divorce the person. Because why would you get married if you just want to divorce the person? A lot of times you want to stay with that person. However, if you're unable to stay with that person, a lot of times you're being made that you did something wrong. And sometimes life just happens. You grow apart. God may be maybe that person was supposed to be your husband for a season. Maybe that person was supposed to be your wife for a season. Seasons and purpose and time under the heavens. Like everything is, God does nothing by mistake. Everything is meant to happen. And a lot of times it's by our own decisions. It's by our own life choices. Whether it's a good choice or it's a indifferent choice. You know what I'm saying? Or a challenge. I don't want to say a bad choice, because a bad choice is a lesson. So a challenging choice. But just be a support to those people. Um, it's very important that we make domestic violence. No, let's not keep quiet about it anymore because more and more people are constantly dying every single day. The numbers of calls that are constantly being received. First of all, I'm grateful that people are calling because at least you're calling for help, you know. But it's important to support. It's important to pray because you never know what someone is going through. It's important to watch how you react to someone because you never know what that person is dealing with. That person may be dealing with the domestic violence situation at home and they're dealing with you in the same type of manner, but they have no outlet between home and wherever they're seeing you. So just being support, watching how you handle people, honestly, handle people with care. Never just judge someone based upon what they look like. Never, because you have no idea what a person's situation is. Um, and again, once harm is done, it takes a while to repair. First of all, it is repairable. That gave me hope. It gives me hope because it is repairable. Um, but it's important that we stop harming each other. Again, like I said in previous episodes, watch what you say to other people. You have no idea the type of damage that you're doing to that person. And it may be abuse, and you have no idea that it's abuse. So I would say self-reflect, first of all, because you have no idea if you're abusing somebody in a relationship because to you it may be normal, and it's not. So self-reflection is key. Holding each other up in prayer is key. Being a support is key. Watching what you say is key. All these things play a part. But again, because of my personal experiences, that's why this is so near and dear to me. And because October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I had to talk about it on here. So y'all, let's just do our part. Now we've had the conversation. What are we gonna do from the conversation? Be a light in somebody's dark world. Be the joy in somebody's sadness. Be a lifter. Be a lover. I'm not saying be extra, but it's not always about us all the time. A lot of times we feel like it's about us, and it's not always about us. It's really about the light that you shine because your light affects everyone else in the world. So what are you bringing to the rest of the world? So I love you guys. I can't wait to see you next week. Make sure that you wear purple this month. Do something, whether it's volunteer at a shelter, whether it's giving money to a shelter, whether it's doing a walk, not only just for Domestic Violence Awareness Month, but for breast cancer awareness. Make sure we're walking. Autism as well. Wearing these colors actually bring awareness to it because these things are real and they're happening, and we have to be the change that we're looking forward to see. So I love you guys. Thank you for listening.